Life isn't a series or about likes on Instagram. Life isn't about being accepted by your peers. Life isn't even about being accepted by your parents. At the very end of the day, life is going to be defined, and the quality of life will be defined by how much you accept yourself, how willing you are to meet yourself where you are, what you really want. Like at the end, what you really want. I believe that we get what we ask for. I believe that we're paid in proportion to the level of questions we ask, whether it be relationship or faith, or whether it be money or experiences or things or stuff. So you might as well ask for what you want. The problem, though, is that you have to first know what you want. And the challenge at our age, right, is what do I really want? And we get all weird. We get weird because we think, well, my parents want me to do this, or my friends want me to do that, or my teachers want me to do this, or my coaches, and all of that's just noise. All of that's just stuff. And it all just circulates around you. And you get to pick and choose like a buffet which pieces you want. And all these people probably want great things for you. These people that speak into your lives, your parents, your friends, for sure, your family, teachers, coaches, like none of them wake up in the morning and go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give terrible advice. Nah, they don't do that. But only you know what's in your heart. It's just you. It's just you. Like real early in the morning, real late at night, it's just you. What do you want? What do you want this to be? Like, I believe we get one shot. I believe we get one look at this. I believe that we get one pass through this. And I believe that which we do is going to uncover that which we have. So make it great. You see, right now, each one of us, it's almost like you're writing the book of your life. And if that's the truth, like every day with what we do, what we don't do, where we go, where we don't go, who we talk to, who we don't talk to, all the stuff, all the things, we're writing the book. We're writing the story of our life. Someday you're going to have to read that book. Be careful who you let hold the pen. Make sure that you're the one writing. Make sure that you're not writing down things that other people want for you unless you want that for you. See, nobody knows your heart but you. You've got hopes and dreams. You've got ideas, and they're yours because nobody else can have them. They're yours because nobody else is designed the way that you're designed. Nobody else has those passions. That's why they're yours. That's what makes you so unique. It's what makes you so different. It's also what makes life so hard sometimes, because those unique desires, those unique loves, those things that we truly want to do, they don't always mesh with the world. They don't always coincide with what society thinks or what our parents think or anything else, but it's just you. You've got to live your life. It's just you. Make sure you're living the one that's congruent with your desires, that's in alignment with the passion that you have. Man, you got to let that out. Don't keep it in. Don't keep that from the rest of us. You know, I remember I was probably five or six, and I grew up in a horrible household. Probably, I hope, very different than yours, incredibly different than yours. By the way, if you had a mom or a dad or a friend or a aunt or uncle or whatever that signed you up for this or got you to come to this, I promise you are growing up in a different household than I did. But I remember being 5 or 6 years old, and my mom was incredibly abusive, like terribly. And I remember my brother and I, we were hiding behind the couch. I just imagine being 5 or 6 years old, right? And we knew that mom was really upset, like mad, and she was going to beat one of us, and it didn't really matter which one it was, just whichever one she could get to first. And my brother and I were hiding behind this couch, and like I'm sobbing, right? He's a year and a half or so older, and man, I'm scared. I don't want to get hit again. And I'm shaking and he's shaking. And he looks at me like lip quivering, the whole thing, right? And he says, I'll go. And I'm a little bit embarrassed. Like I'm embarrassed to tell you, like I was so glad. I was like, yes, yes, not me. But then I had to lay there and listen. I tell you that because if you're in a home where that's not your life, you're one of the lucky ones. If you're in a home where mom and dad, or mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom, or whatever the mixture looks like, it's all fine. It's all good. Love is love around here. But whatever home you live in, if that's not your reality, if that's not your worry, you're living a life that's better than a lot. And sometimes it's just the perspective. You got to know, like you've got to know, you have got to know that your parents, your guardians, whoever's helping you, and if you're 19 or 20 or 18 or out of the house already, those parents are doing their best. They wake up every day and they try to do their best. And I know that you can make a list of things that they've done wrong. Trust me, the list that you would write is nowhere near the size of the list that they would write. You see, there's not a parent on earth that doesn't go to bed at night and wonder and worry. Am I messing it up? Am I doing all that I can do? Did I say the right thing? Was I too hard today? Was I too nice today? Should I have pushed a little bit more when they didn't want to go to practice? Should I have made them go? Should I have not made them go? All the questions. You are not the only person on the planet who questions everything that you do, say, and think. The rest of us do too. So if you've got a parent that you're not afraid of, tell them you love them. If you've got one that you're not worried about what they're going to do when you mess up, make sure you tell them that you appreciate that. If you got one that drives you to practices and drives you to sports and drives you to school and does those things, you're one of the lucky ones. Don't waste it though. Don't squander it. You see, when we think about it, life looks more like a marathon than it does a sprint. And when you marathon run, it's not about how fast you go. It's not about necessarily getting there quickest. It is about never stopping. It's okay if you walk a little bit. It's okay if you slow down a little bit. It's okay if things hurt and you take a quick break, but you keep moving. And I want you to be a marathoner. It's not about running real fast for short distances. It's about running a marathon. So your life, you have a lot of time. You have a whole lot of time. And from where you sit right now, the world's yours. You're living in the most incredible time in the history of our world. There's more at your fingertips than there's ever been. Don't waste it. There's places that our world's never seen that if you don't follow the passions in your heart, we won't go. There's people that need help that if you don't do what's in your heart, they won't get it. And you're not too young. You're not too young to make a difference. You're also not too old to start something. You're at the right place at the right time. And you have to remember that you're uniquely wired. Like the way you think is perfect. The way you look at the world is perfect. The way you look at things, the way you process things, the way you worry about things sometimes is perfect. You know why? Because it's you. And there's nothing wrong with you. I know you wonder. I know you think. I know that you think, well, what about this or that? I know that sometimes we get wound up around social media or the way somebody else looks or the way they dress or the way they talk. Trust me, that doesn't go away. When you're an adult, when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40, it doesn't go away. You still have those thoughts. So you might as well make peace with them right now. But the most amazing thing, the most beautiful thing is when you're just yourself. And I know you've heard that before, but just be you. If you want to be popular, be kind to people. If you want to win in life, be kind to people. If you want to make a whole bunch of money, be kind to people. If you really want, if you want people to help you, if you want people to give you a break, be kind to people. If you want your parents to say yes to stuff for you more often, be kind to them. Kindness is the key that's going to unlock the door to where you want to go. Be kind. Make it about other people. If you want friends, be kind. Be kind. So your life quality is going to be measured at some level by the level of experiences that you have. Trust me, you're not going to get old and think, I'm so glad I have all this stuff. But there's nothing wrong with stuff. There's nothing wrong with stuff. You're not going to get old and think to yourself, I'm so glad I have this boat or this car or this plane or this house or all these homes or all these businesses. Those things are all great, but they're only great for the great things they can do. What you're going to remember are the experiences. What you're going to remember are the trips, the days, the time, the richness of the relationships, the friendships, the family. That's what you're really going to remember. But that doesn't mean the rest doesn't matter. There are people who will tell you that those things are bad. There are people who will tell you that money's bad. Listen to me. Listen to me. Money's not bad. Money's incredible. And money doesn't make people bad. Money does reveal people. If you're a bad person inside, or you choose to do bad things and you have a whole bunch of money, you're just going to do more bad things faster. But if you're a good person inside, if your heart is pure, you're always going to win in the end anyway. Remember that. But if your heart is pure and you truly want to help people, I can give you a bucket of money and you're just going to help more people faster. Money doesn't corrupt, but people will give you lots of opinion about money. By the way, you can have all that you want. Money is simply an energy. You can have all of it that you want, and you can have as little of it as you want, but you can earn incredible money. And you know what? You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to make money. You might need to be the kindest. You might need to be the one who works the hardest. You might need to be the one who's humble. You might need to be the one who has grit and won't stop. And if you lose today, you wake up and get back tomorrow. You might have to be that one. I made it to the 9th grade, and that was my last year in school. Never finished high school. Never went to college. Today, I get to run businesses with people that floor me what we can do. Like, it's incredible. And I'm 40. Now, right now, your parents, if they're listening, are worried about you dropping out of school. So don't do that. That's not what I'm talking about. That was a tough road. It was a really tough road. And I don't know that I'd make that same choice twice. But I tell you that because it's not just book smarts, but they'll help. And it's not just street smarts, but they'll help too. You know what it is at the end of the day? It's where's your heart? People know where you are. People know. They can sniff it out, man. They can tell. Do you actually care about them? They can tell that you actually have their best interest in mind. If you're willing to be kind, you can literally do anything you want, but you have to work hard. It's not just being kind. It's not just being nice. It's that person that says, I'm going to get up and work. I'm going to work. I'm going to work at this. And at the end of the day for you, today, tomorrow, and the day after that, it's about finding the passions in your life. And right now, where you are in life, how in the world would you know all the things you're passionate about? Man, it's a great big world out here. There's so many cool things. There's so many great places. There's so many amazing books. There's so many great artists. There's so many great museums. There's too many cool things. There's too many great concerts. They'll be back someday. There's too many cool things. You can't do them all. But the easiest way to find your passions is to listen to your heart. You'll find those passions and pick something up and run with it for a little while. Here's my idea for you. Pick something up and run with it. If you get tired of it, if it's not your thing, if you're not passionate about it, put it back down and pick something else up. Now, I have a caveat here. And the caveat would be listen to your parents. Listen to the people around you. Those adults do know some things. I know they don't know how to dress. I get that. I get it. I understand. I know that they're not cool sometimes. I totally get that too. But they do have some experience. And you ought to listen to them. But at the end of the day, you make your own decision. Just because you listen to your parents, just because you have a real conversation, just because you say, what's your opinion, doesn't mean you have to take it. It just means you got to listen to it. And you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than you talk. Nothing wrong with asking people's opinion. And there's nothing wrong with asking for people's input and then deciding that that doesn't work with your life, that that's not your passion. That's fine. But at least ask the question first. That's smart. Now, you're not going to be great at everything. You're just not. In fact, if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. I will not be great at everything. And then make peace with that. You can't be great at everything. It can't happen. But you can be great at a few things. You could choose a handful of things and you could be world class at those things. But those things that you're not great at, the things that you work hard at and they're not your thing, maybe you work real hard at math and it's just not your thing. That's okay. I'll bet you can be successful. You ought to still try. You ought to still give it your best. Maybe science is not your thing. You can still give it your best. You just might not go to a scientific field. That's okay. There's a difference between doing your best and understanding it's not your talent. That's okay. But the minute that you don't do your best, you're cheating on yourself. The minute that you don't do your best, you're literally telling yourself it's okay to not try. And that's not all right. That's gonna lead you, if you're willing to do that, that's gonna lead you to a life of mediocrity. It's gonna lead you to a life that's not amazing. It's gonna lead you to a life that you're not gonna love. You can try your hardest at something and still not be great at it. That's fine. But if you're gonna do it, listen to me. If you're gonna do it, you do it the best you can. And you make that a habit. And you just say, listen, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do the best I can. If I win, if I lose, if I do it well, if I mess it up, if I drop it, if I don't, I'm just going to do my best. And you make it a habit to do your best. Listen to me, young kings, young queens. If you'll do your best and you'll be kind, there's nowhere you can't go. There is no door that you can't get through. There is no room you can't be in if you're willing to do that. But it's uncommon. Most people won't do it. Now, if you can't stop thinking about something, like if you can't stop thinking about it, then that's your internal self, that's your internal passion begging you to fly with it. So those things that you can't stop thinking about, they're there for a reason. That heaviness on your heart that says, I've got to try this, I've got to do this, I know I can do it. That's your soul begging you to try. Don't be afraid. And just know, like, the reality is you're going to fail at it a little bit. There's nothing that I do that I don't fail at first. And my guess is there's nothing that you do that you don't fail at a little bit either. But think about all those things that you've done that you weren't very good at, that over time you got better and better and better at them. What was it like to drop out of high school, and how did you find your way? It was surprisingly easy to drop out of high school. I just never went back one day. But you know what? I didn't have parents that cared about it. My guess is if you dropped out of high school, your parents would come unglued and they'd be like, what do you think you're doing? I didn't have any parents who cared. I was already working full time and I was already living out of the house. I moved out of my house when I was 14. I started paying rent to my mom. I started paying rent when I was 11, almost 12, I guess. Started paying rent. And I had to pay rent to move back home because she had rented out our bedrooms. And I'd gone to live with extended family like multiple times. And I just wanted to be home. And so I made a deal. I said, if I come home, she said, well, I've rented out your bedroom. And I said, well, I'll pay rent. And at the time, our bedrooms were rented out and we had a boat on like an old boat on the side of the house. And I said, well, let me come home and sleep in the boat. And so I came home and I slept in the boat from probably like mid-January until May, when that tenant moved out of my bedroom. Remember, I'm like 11 and a half or 12 years old. So just put yourself back a few years when you were 11 and a half or 12. I'm guessing this wasn't your life. And I hope it hasn't been. But there was like this electrical cord that would go out to the boat, right? And I could, if I turned on the heat and the light, it would blow the fuse and I'd have to run inside and my mom would be pissed and like it never ended well. And so I would have to choose every night. Do I want heat or do I want light? And I was really scared of the dark. Like I still am kind of. Like I'll usually have a light on. Like I don't like the dark. I don't like darkness. And so I would usually choose the light. But at the time I lived in Alaska. So living in a boat on the side of a house in January and February in Alaska, it was cold, really cold. And I would choose the light. The second part of your question was, how did you find your way? I don't know that I found my way as much as my way found me. And I don't mean that like in a trite, weird, parenty type way. I mean, I tried a whole bunch of stuff and I was never willing to stop. I was unwilling to stop. I was willing to fail. I was willing to be bad. I was willing to not get it right. I was willing to screw it up, but I wasn't willing to stop. And eventually, if you try every way that it won't work, you're just left with one way that it will. And I was always good with people. But when you drop out of school, you have to be good with people because that's all you got to win with. So can I get people to like me? And the problem is, if you don't like yourself, they're never going to like you. So be true inside first. Like that's what matters on the inside. Now, if you want to win with your parents, here's what I'm going to give you on your parents, right? How much did she charge to rent your room? This is a good question. I don't remember 100%, but I do remember this. When I first came home, it was $75, $75. I wasn't even 12 yet. Like I got an 11-year-old upstairs. If she had $75, I'd know she took it from me. And so I had to hustle. Like I always had to hustle. But there was always somebody who was willing to help me. And, you know, I'll tell you this story real quick. I got a paper route. And we had moved from one home to another, and it was like my 7th or 8th school district that I was in. And man, I don't know if you ever changed schools, but it sucks. Like it's terrible being the new kid. At the same time, later in life, I learned that being the new kid was great because being the new kid meant that you get to recreate who you are. But when I was 12, I didn't look at the world like that. I just thought it was terrible. And so we had moved around a few times. And so my mom said, we're moving again. And I was like, no, for heavens, no. Like, please, like, damn it. I want to stay in this school. And she goes, well, I don't care what you do, but you got to figure it out yourself. And so I got this bus pass, and the bus pass was like $30 a month. But I had to forge her signature to go and get it because they won't sell a bus pass to somebody who's 12. But if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way. And if you don't want it bad enough, you'll find an excuse. Be careful with the excuses. We've all got them. We all do it. So I got this bus pass, and I went and I got a paper route. And I got a paper route. This was back in the old days. Like, you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, but we used to like have paper boys, and we would deliver the newspaper to people's doors. No one does this anymore, but this is what we used to do. And it was the best job for a 12-year-old. But the newspaper said, great, we'll give you the job. We'll give you the paper route. What's your address so we can drop the papers off? And I realized like right then, I didn't have an address because we didn't live anywhere near the paper route because the paper route was downtown and we had moved way outside of downtown. And so I said, oh my gosh, I don't remember. I'll call back tomorrow. And the rest of that day, I knocked on doors. I went from door to door to door and knocked on doors. And I would say, hi, my name is Cody. Would you mind if I didn't have like a very good thing to say. I didn't have like a good script is what we'd call it today. But I said, hi, my name is Cody. Is there any way that I could have newspapers delivered here every day? And can I use your address? You could imagine like the answers that I got. Until I got to one door. And it was probably my 20th door. I would tell you it feels like my 200th door, but it wasn't. It was like 15 or 20. It wasn't that much, but it felt like a lot. I knocked on the door, and this little old lady who looked like she was about 300 years old answered the door, and she came in, and her name was Ida. And I gave her my little spiel, and she looked at me and she said, young man, do you need me to lie to the newspaper for you? And I said, yes, I do. Yes, that's it. Yes, that's yes. And she said, no problem. I said, all right. And so I started having my newspapers delivered there. And what I found was this. Ida said, I only have one condition. She said that you stop and talk to me sometimes. And I said, sure, no problem. And we had an amazing relationship. See, she was a very lonely, lonely old lady. All of her family had died. She had no family, none, zero zip. And I would walk up to the driveway to get my papers every day, and I would see her sitting in the window waiting for me. And she'd open the door. I'd have to go inside and talk to her. Now I was 12, and then I was 13 when I was doing this. And so I was in a hurry sometimes. I'm like, Ida, I don't have time to talk. But there were so many days I'd walk inside, and she found out that I didn't have a lot of food at home. And so she'd make a sandwich. She would take care of me, and I took care of her. Like, we became friends. One day I went to get my newspapers there, and there was nobody home. And Ida had passed away that day. But she had left in her will, get this, she had left in her will that I'd still be able to get my papers there. I want you to see what kindness does. Just be kind. Just be kind. I was kind to her, and she was kind to me. You see, what I've learned is, as long as I'm kind, as long as I work really, really, really hard, as long as I don't give up, there's always been somebody somewhere at just the right time. And you could think it's God, you could think it's Yahweh, you could think it's the universe, you could think it's fine with me, whatever you put it under. I'm cool with it. But I promise, in your life, if you're kind and you work hard and you won't give up, there's always going to be somebody at just the right time, just the right time. But you better take care of them. Because just because that right person comes into your life at just the right time doesn't mean they're guaranteed to stay. You see, everybody has choice. So make the choice to be kind. All right, now, good question. Ultimately, I do remember, because she raised the rent a lot. I do remember when I finally moved out, I was 14 and I was paying $450 a month. And at the time, at 14, I was like, $450 a month. Good grief, man. I could rent an apartment for that in Juneau, Alaska, where I lived. And I'm like, well, why would I pay you $450 a month in rent and have to live with you? Wasn't a good relationship, when I could just pay $450 a month and live on my own. So off I went. And when I told her I was moving out, she said, all right. If you've got a parent that would say something other than, all right, I think you ought to hug them. I think you ought to love them. I think you ought to tell them, you know what? Thank you. I promise you, man, your mom is doing the best she can. She's scared. She's worried. She's doing the best she can. Your dad, he's doing the best he can. Whether they're in your life or out of your life, they're doing the best they can. Give them a little bit of grace. Now, if you want to win with them, if you want to win with your parents, here's some tips. So if your parent is with you, the parent should just leave the room for a minute. Just get out. Here's how you win with your parents. Number one, shock them. Here's how you shock them. You say, thank you. You say, thanks. Thank you for dinner. That was incredible. Now, the first time you do this, they're probably going to laugh and be like, where'd you come from? What do you want? What do you want? But even when they laugh and go, what do you want? You've already softened them up. Thank you. Gratitude. Gratitude will almost open every door. So thank you. If you want to get what you want from me, and you already know this, you already know it, because when you were a little tyke or a little tychus, if you wanted something, you got kinder and your behavior got better. The same reason why the dog, when the dog wants a treat or some food when you're at the kitchen table, doesn't run around and jump. The dog sits. It's ingrained in us. It is ingrained to be nice when you want something. If you want to win with your parents, thank them. If you want to win with your parents, see them. Here's what I mean by seeing them. Actually pay attention to what they're doing. Pay attention to how they're doing it and say something to them. Now, I'm going to tie this together in a minute. And if you get the point from this, you can go anywhere you want to in life. I want you to see them. and I want you to acknowledge them. You see, everybody wants to be acknowledged. Everybody wants to be told, good job at that. Everybody wants to be told, you know what? That was incredible. Mom, that was the best vacation we've ever had. Thank you for making it happen. Dad, that was the best spring break we've ever had. Thank you. That was awesome. Good job. Just acknowledge people. Here's what you're going to find, though. You get what you give. And let me say it again, because I want you to write it down if you're taking notes. You get what you give. And so when you give praise, you're going to get it back. Maybe not right away, and maybe not even from that person. You're going to meet a few people along the path that you're going to be incredibly kind to, and they're not going to pay it back with kindness. So what? You don't stop. Your kindness doesn't revolve around them giving it back. Your kindness is not hinged on them doing it. Your kindness is about you being true to yourself. Remember, you're enough. Remember, you're created for a reason. You're here for a reason. You're not a mistake. And as much as it hurts some days, as much as it's hard some days, what I need you to know is that doesn't go away. You don't turn 25 and go, cool, I got it. You don't turn 45 and go, cool, I got it all figured out. The longer you live, the more you're going to realize you don't know anything. The more you're going to realize I don't have hardly anything figured out. Now, I want you to write down these 3 words. If you're taking notes, it's going to be why, what, and who. Why, what, who. The lowest, remember I made a comment in the beginning of our conversation, and we'll go about maybe 8 or 10 more minutes, maybe 12, maybe 35, who knows? We might be here all night, but you can go whenever you need to. Why, what, and who. The lowest level question you can ask is why. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you've got a sister and you guys are minding your own business in the back seat of the car. Mom, dad, or whatever is driving, and you're minding your own business, having a good time, and then you hit your sister. Of course, your parent looks back and goes, why'd you hit your sister? And you look and you go, and you tell the truth. You go, I don't know. I don't know why I hit my sister, because she's there. I don't know why I hit her, because she's right there and she should probably be hit. I'm going to do it. Why is the lowest level question. And so when you ask questions like, why can't I do this? Or why did you say no? Or why are you giving me grief on this when you're talking to your parents? Just know that you're already headed towards a no. Now, what is a higher level question? Whether it's with your parent, your coach, a friend, a teammate, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse later on, your parents, whatever, what is a better question? So you might ask, what would cause this? Or what would move you to say yes to what you're looking for? What would cause you to say yes to my request? The highest level question you can ask is always going to begin with who. Let me give you an example. So who do I need to be so that you'll say yes? Give your parents a way to say yes. Now, they might tell you something that doesn't work for you. That's okay. That's going to happen in life for the rest of your life. But at least give a way for a yes to happen. The problem when you say why'd you say no? Or why aren't you letting me? Automatically, they're on the defense. So if you just switch this, you're going to live an easier life. Who do I need to be? Who do I need to know that could help me with this? If you're struggling at something with school, it's not why is it so hard? It's who do I need to know that helps me? If you're not getting what you want from life right now, it's not why isn't it happening? It's who do I need to be so that my life looks different? And you're going to have to make one of 2 decisions around this thing, right? You either have to believe that life is happening to you or life is happening for you. And when you get that life is happening for you, oh man, life eases. Life gets simpler. It doesn't mean that life is not hard, but what you do matters. What you don't do matters even more. Let me tell you my point. What you do matters. How you treat people, how you talk, where you go, when you do it. But what you don't do matters more. Like if you don't do your work, if you don't do your homework, if you don't do your chores, if you've got chores, if you don't read, if you don't eat right, if you don't sleep right, all these things, the don't do's, I promise you, my friends, I promise you those don't do's are going to add up and they're going to sneak up on you and it's going to be too late. So be careful with those habits. And I'm going to give you an idea, and it's called habit stacking. And so if you're taking notes, I want you to write it down. Habit stacking, and all of you can do it, whether you're 12 or 13, whether you're 10, whether you're 19 or 25, you can all do it. I teach habit stacking to adults. And habit stacking is simply this. I want you to think of something that you want to do, something that you want to do without even thinking about it sometimes. Like it's just habitual. It just happens. Like you just do it, right? I'll bet you that when you get up out of bed in the morning, you do the same thing every day. I'll bet that you walk down the hallway the same way, or walk to the restroom, or go to the kitchen. I'll bet you start paying attention. I'll bet you that you have the same habits around it. I'll bet you go to bed the same way. I'll bet you brush your teeth at the same time. You get my point. So anything that you want to do, if you want to be good at something and you want to make it a habit and you want to ingrain it, then what you would do is stack it on something else, something that doesn't take any effort. Maybe every single night you go and get a glass of water before bed. And let's say that you want to be good at, we'll pick out telling your parents you love them. Maybe you're like, you know what, Cody, I need to tell my parents I love them more often. And so maybe that's the trigger. And every night when you go and get a glass of water, you go, oh yeah, yep. And you go find your parents and say, hey, I love you. By the way, they'll say yes to more things you want if you do this. You win no matter what. And so that's habit stacking. You take something that you already do naturally that you never have to think about. Maybe you want to get good at affirmations. And affirmations will be something that we talk in one of the later episodes that we do. This is episode 1 of 7. And one of the episodes, we're going to wrap about half of the episode just on affirmations, like how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to the person inside of us. And if you'll do that, then maybe you take a glass of water and then say the affirmations. That would be an easy way. I like to use brushing my teeth. I like to brush my teeth. One of my favorite things to do. It wasn't when I was a kid, but it became when I was older. And so when I brush my teeth, like I'll go and I'll be like, oh, I need to do this or I need to do that. And that's just habit stacking. I'll clean that up and I'll give you more of that. Like on episode 5 or 6, we'll talk more about habit stacking. But here's a few more questions you guys gave, and then I'll finish up what I had. What should I do when I feel burned out and overwhelmed by responsibilities? It's a good question. When you feel burned out or overwhelmed by responsibilities, I want you to do 3 things. And here's what they are. Number 1, I want you to stop. Just stop. Just stop right in your tracks. My friend, just stop. Number 2, I want you to breathe. I just want you to breathe. Just stop and breathe. Stop and breathe. Number 3, I want you to take 1 step forward. Now, I don't mean 1 step forward physically, unless that's what you're doing, but 1 step forward in that thing. We get so wrapped up sometimes with what we want to get done that we can't even see it. It's like when you were a little guy or a little girl and your parents would say, go clean your room. And you'd go into your room and it was such a mess. And you were like, oh my gosh, my room is such a mess. I don't even know where to start. And so you sit down on the bed. You're like, well, I'm not going to do any of it because it's too much. I don't even know where to start. That's what it looks like. When in reality, because you've learned by now, you know what? My room's a disaster. I'm going to pick this 1 shirt up. And you know what? I'm 1 shirt closer to my room not being a disaster. And then I'm going to take the trash out and I'm 1 step closer to my room. It's just 1 step at a time. So it's going to be stop, breathe, make a plan, take a step, do something. You cannot lose when you're moving forward. Now, when you feel overwhelmed, when you have responsibilities and you feel burned out and homework is stacking up and responsibilities are tight, and maybe you're a student athlete and you're like, man, I've got it up to here. Like I am full. Stop, breathe, take a step forward. Remember this. Forward movement, forward progress, even an inch at a time, is still forward movement. It's still forward progress. There's the old story, and many of you have heard it. There's the old story, and it's a kid's bedtime story. It's a nursery story about the tortoise and the hare, the turtle and the rabbit. And they're in a race. The rabbit takes off super fast, and the turtle takes off like a freaking turtle does, super slow, right? Well, that rabbit gets tired and stops running. But that turtle just keeps moving. And no matter how many times you read the book, no matter how many times you read that story, the turtle always wins. By the way, the bigger the thing is that you're working towards, the longer it will take. And the bigger the thing is you're working for, the more opposition the world will give you. When you feel opposition, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means you got to level up. It just means you're not there yet. Did you have a relationship with your dad? Yeah. My dad was a heavy, heavy drug user and a heavy alcoholic. And the family business until I was 9 years old was drugs. We grew them and we sold them. And my dad would be heavy into drugs, and to get off the drugs, he would go heavy into alcohol and he would drink. And then to get off the drinking, he'd go back heavy into drugs. He was also one of the coolest guys you could meet. Very athletic. He could build anything. Everybody loved the guy. He just wouldn't stay away from the liquor, the booze, the drink, and the drugs. And he ultimately let it ruin his life. But he didn't start down that path with that intention. My guess is he started down that path with a couple of drinks too early. He told me later in life that he was a drug addict by the time he was 14. I'll bet you when he started doing drugs, he never said, you know what, I'm going to do this one drug and it's going to ruin my life. This sounds awesome. Nah, no one does that, man. No one does that. He passed away when I was 17, and he lived under a bridge. He was homeless for a long time. And the last time I saw him, I was 15. And at that time, I was 15, turning 16. And at 16, I was the youngest manager in Kmart history. And I'll tell you the rest of that story in one of the other episodes, because there's something I want you to get from that story that will help you in your life. But to answer the question about my dad, I have to tell part of it. He died from alcoholism. In other words, he drank so much, like he had so much booze, so many cocktails, so many drinks, that he just died one day. Like his body just died. He was 46. I turned 41 this year. You know, he never got to see me be a dad. He never got to meet his grandkids. His grandkids never got to meet him. What a waste. What a waste. So when you look at that drink or you look at that drug, just know that your parents went down the same road. They were offered drinks, they were offered alcohol, they were offered drugs. Just know that you make the choice first, and then the choice makes you. My dad didn't have a drink and go, you know what? I'd like to die by myself when I'm 46 in a shack. He didn't think that, but that's where he went. Those first drugs he did, he didn't go, you know what? I'm going to run from the police and I'm going to overdose my best friend and he's going to die in my arms and my whole family is going to move to Alaska overnight. That happened when I was 9 years old. He didn't start that first drug thinking that's where I'll end up, but that's where he went. See, first you make the choice, then the choice makes you. And those things that you don't feel good about, you don't feel good about them for a reason. Those things that you're like, man, I feel pressured to do this, whether it's drugs or drinking or sex or going somewhere that you know you shouldn't be, like those things where like the hair stands up on your neck and you're like, I don't know, man. Those are there for a reason. That's your internal voice telling you, don't do it. Don't do it. There's a price to pay for this. And the price might be bigger than you ever thought. You see, but with my dad, it wasn't just him that paid the price. I paid the price. My kids pay the price today. If you've got grandparents in your life, love them. Because mine don't on my side. But if you do, man, tell them thank you. By the way, your grandparents usually have money, and this is going to work out well for you. So it's a good play, no matter what. All right, good question. Do you still talk to your mom today? So we have a handful of questions. We won't get to all of them, but I'll save them and do them in another episode. Do you still talk to your mom today? I'm 40, turned 41 this year. The last time we spoke, which would have been about a 2-minute conversation, was maybe 12 years ago. Maybe 13 years ago, maybe 12 or 13 years. And before that, we hadn't talked for almost 10 years. So in 20 something years, we've talked once or twice for 3 or 4 minutes. Micah, you're right. That is a long time. And here's the deal. I have lots of thoughts around that. 2 things. 1, mom was horrendous. 2, She did her best. She didn't wake up and think, you know what, I'm going to be a terrible mom. So I forgive her. I've always forgiven her. I forgave her when it happened. I forgave her when it happened, when it all happened. And I need you to forgive people. But forgiving people doesn't always mean giving them the chance to hurt you again. You can forgive someone and still walk away. If you've got a friend who's done wrong multiple times, maybe, it's okay to forgive them. And it's okay to maybe not be as friendly. It's okay to not hang out as much. You unfollow people on social media. It's okay to unfollow people in real life too. If they're not helping you get where you want to go, and if they're not a positive influence and it doesn't make you a better person, unfollow that person, man. Now, with that, I don't have a relationship with my mom, and I wish I did. But we don't get to choose the cards that we're dealt in life. We do get to choose how we play them. And each of you have a specific card. Each of you have some talent. Each of you have some drive, and each of you have some will. You've got a dream that you want to go make happen. Go do that. And all the other stuff that happens in life is just stuff. I promise you that the highest potential in your world is going to be when you're living in your passion and you're saying, I love what I do. Don't mistake that for not having hard work. I'll talk about that in episode 2 and episode 3. There's going to be a mountain of hard work on whatever path you choose. If you want to become an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, you want to start a business, you want to run a corporation, you want to do those things. When I became the youngest manager in Kmart history, it was a lot of work, but I loved it. And it made me who I am today. And the things that I've done that have been a lot of work make me who I am today. All right, a couple more points. We got to get out of here. Every battle is won or lost in your mind first. Every test you take at school, every tryout, if you're looking for your first job or if you're applying for a job, every battle is won in the mind first. When you want your mom or dad to say yes to something, that's won in the mind first. And remember, what you think is what matters the most. Because if you think it, then you'll take the right actions or the right activities. And if you'll think the right way and then do the right things, eventually you'll get where you want to go. Now, we have a system that we call, that I want you to write this down. And that system would be do, have. B, like be a certain way, do, D-O, like do things. And then you have things. And here's what I want you to think. No matter where you want to go in life, if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be a business owner, if you want to start something in your community, and we'll talk about that on episode 3. I'm going to give you some ideas of what you can start in your community that will do two things. You'll make money from it, and you'll have an impact on the community. You will help the people around you, and you can't lose when you're helping people around you. All right, so back to my point. Be, do, have. So be, do, have. No matter what it is you want to do, if you want to be smarter, if you want to know something, if you want to be amazing at math or amazing at science, or if you want to be a politician someday and help govern the world, and I hope you do it. If you want to be an attorney or a doctor or a dentist, or you want to fly airplanes, it doesn't matter what you want to do. It's be, do, have. And what you do is you find someone who's already doing it. You find someone who's already where you want to go, and you look at them, you watch them. And today with the internet, right, like you can find anybody and you start being that way. Like if you're an athlete's going to be the type of person who works out. An athlete's going to be the type of person that puts the right food in their body. An athlete's going to be the kind of person who wakes up early in the morning before their job or before their school, and they work out, they run, they train, whatever. Like that's who they're being. Then you go and do the stuff. You do the activities. You don't get results right away. For God's sakes, like results take forever sometimes. That's okay. Welcome to earth. Just be okay with that. But eventually, if you'll be that way, you'll be like them. You act the way they act. You talk the way they talk. If you want to be a millionaire, if you want to make a bucket of money someday, then follow people who make a ton of money and be the way that they're being. Look at the world the way they look at the world. You can literally have anything you want, but you can also have as little of what you want. Both of those are true. I'll talk to you on episode 2 about how that works in the mind with an affirmation, like how you move your brain from here to here by affirming it, by saying it before it even happens. And it's going to be a little weird, and that's okay. I've been weird most of my life. I'll bet you probably feel the same too. So just embrace it. Like, it's all right, let's be weird together. Like, we're good. We're good. We're totally Gucci with this. We're fine. Be, do, have. You be a certain way, do the things that those people do. Eventually you'll have what they have. If you want to have if your dream is to have a Lamborghini in the driveway or a Ferrari, awesome. You can be, do, have all the way there. You want your own plane? Be, do, have all the way there. You want a giant business? Be, do, have all your way there. The people that do those things, you have to hear me on this. The people that do those things and achieve the things that you look at and you go, that's awesome. They are not smarter than you. They're not better than you. They're not more talented than you. None of that. You know what they might be? They might be willing to work a little more. That might be true. They might be a little less lazy. That might be true. They might be kinder to other people. That might be true. They might be more strategic. That might be true. But they're not smarter. They're not better. They certainly don't have something that you didn't have. It's not like they were born and all of a sudden they won like some lottery at birth and all of a sudden they're just going to be incredible. No, that's not the way it works. You live in the greatest country, in the greatest world, the greatest time of all time. There's literally nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that you can't do. But there's also no limit to how little you do. You got to choose which side you want to be on. And what you do and what you don't do is going to dictate how that folds out. So you might as well reach for the stars. Like, you might as well just dream big. If you're going to dream, might as well make it big. If you're going to go big, you might as well double it and go even bigger. So someone said, is college worth it? Yeah, college is amazing. There's some jobs that in some professions you have to have it. So is college worth it? 100%. Is college the only way? 100% no. That's a great conversation to have with people that care about your life as much or more than you do. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Parents have this knack. We have this ability that when the baby shows up, we immediately, bam, we care about that kid more than we care about ourselves. I don't know how that works, but it's true. I got 3 babies and I care about all 3 of those babies' lives more than I care about my own. I don't know how it works, but that's the truth. So college, it's a great conversation to have with people that care, but ultimately you make the decision. Nobody can force you to do anything, especially not at that age. And so there's nothing wrong with saying, what do you think? What do you think? Gather all the information and then make the decision. It's not the only path. Some of the most successful people I know didn't spend a day in college. Some of the least successful people I know went to college. Some of the least successful people I know skipped college. Like, I can give you an example for all of it. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be in 10 or 20 years? And that's going to dictate whether college is a good choice or not. There's an old saying, and I want you to write this down. It says, begin with the end in mind. And so if you're 20 or 19 or 22 and you're thinking, is college worth it? You got to look and go, where do I want to be at 40? Where do I want to be at 50? And then you wheel that back, and that's an easy conversation to figure out, is it the right choice? But get some people around you that can speak into your life, that care about you as much or more than you do. Remember, you're enough. You are enough. The way you think is right. The way you act is right. The way that you discern information, the way that you think about your friends, you are right. You are wired correctly. The way you question the world, the way you go, I don't know, man, I'm not sure if that's right or if that's wrong. You're perfect the way you are with that. Don't lose that magic. You're not wrong. Don't conform to the rest of the world just because you're supposed to. Conform to your dreams and your hopes and your passions. And you know what? Pay attention to the world, because the world's smart. The world is smarter than you. The world is smarter than me. And we'd be smart to pay attention to it. That doesn't mean that we bend to it. It just means we understand it. And I want you to listen more than you talk. I want you to ask more questions than you talk. You'll find that if you ask questions, like if you just get in the habit of asking questions, people will tell you everything you need to know. If you want something from your teacher, just ask a whole bunch of questions. They'll eventually give into it. If you want to know something from your mom or your dad or your uncles or aunts or cousins or whatever, just ask questions. Questions are what unlocks it. All right, last point, and then we got to get out of here. Find your passions, talked about that. Remember, your parents are doing their best. Your parents go to bed at night worrying. Your parents wake up in the morning worrying. They race off to work worrying. They worry. They worry. They worry. They worry. Am I doing it right? Do they have the right friends in their life? Did I do everything I could? Should I have pushed them here or pushed them there? Your parents are doing the best they can. Cut them some slack. Love on them. You're not the only person in your house that needs to be told you're doing great. You're not the only person in your house that needs to be told, I love you. Good job. You matter. Your parents do too. Those are humans, and humans need encouragement. There's an old saying that you'll know when someone needs encouragement if they're breathing. So if they're breathing, they need encouragement. So if you're watching this with someone, look over at them. And if they're breathing, they need encouragement. And so do you. There's nothing wrong with that. But when there's nobody around to encourage you, you got to encourage yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you. You're the only person who lives with you every day, all day. You're the only one. Later in life, when you get married and you have a family, if that's what you want, it's still going to be you. So you might as well like what you see. You might as well love who you are and be willing to encourage yourself. Remember, on episode 2 and 3, I'll dive into affirmations, and I'll help you with why you struggle with that, because I've struggled with it too. I continue to struggle with it. I look in the mirror someday and I think, am I doing this right? Is this the right thing? What have I done? Like, I don't like myself some days. Welcome to the club, man. Like, we all deal with that. Your parents deal with that. You deal with that. You're not wrong or weird or different because you have bad thoughts sometimes. You're right. But you don't have to stay there. Nothing wrong with how you are. All right. We've got an hour. Episode 2 is going to be next Thursday, so a week from today, 5 o'clock Pacific, same time. And for a bunch of my friends that couldn't be on here because of East Coast or whatever else you're doing, remember, we're going to send you the replay link right afterwards. We don't have episodes 3 through 7 planned yet, but they'll be quick. There won't be much time between them, a week, 10 days close. But the very next episode is going to be a week from today, episode 2. And in episode 2, I'm going to dive deeper on the idea of work and the idea of ethic and work ethic with what you do at school, what you do at home, and then what you do ultimately in a career path, a job, or an entrepreneur. So if you want to open businesses or start businesses, I'm going to give you some of the secrets to make those things happen. We'll also dive into affirmations a little bit around what you say to yourself and how to do it in such a way that it works. So I have 2 requests. Request number 1, get signed up for the next one. We're not going to automatically sign you up because maybe you came today and it's not your thing. We're not going to automatically do it. We have 500 seats. We sold out over 500 seats for this one. When I say sell, they're free. Like, this is my pleasure to do these. They're free. But we do need you to register so we know how many spaces to hold. We don't want to be over 500 because then we can't get to any of the questions. It's just too many. So if you like it, please register for next week. Even if you can't come, we're going to send you the replay link and you'll have it forever. My second request, I need you to hear me on this. Look at me. I need you to hear me on this. My second request this week, I just want you to do something kind. Every day, do something kind. So the world would call it a random act of kindness. I just want you to do that. It could be a little thing. It could be helping a neighbor with something. It could be shoveling someone's driveway. It could be mowing your neighbor's lawn when they didn't ask you for it. I mean, it could be anything. It could be pouring your mom a cup of coffee in the morning. It could be helping your dad with a chore in the backyard. It could be helping one of your friends or a sister or brother, just something that you wouldn't normally do and something you weren't asked to do. Just one a day, just one. And what you'll find is this: the world will begin to spin around you in a different way. The people around you will begin to orbit around you in a different way. You'll win more often. You'll have more friends. You'll be more popular in the right ways. Just do something kind that's it. Just one thing kind every day. If you want to up it and you want to make it better, share it with somebody. If you're close to mom or dad, come home to mom or dad and say, here's what I did today. And you know what? I think you ought to challenge them and go, listen, you think it's because they're going to go, oh my gosh, that's so great. Cool. All right, mom, thanks. How about you do it? Thanks, dad. How about you do it? Challenge them to do it, man. Get them involved with it. And then you become the kind of person in episode 4, I think it's 4. In episode 4, I'm going to help you with how you become the type of person that everybody wants to be around all the time. And that's an energy issue. That's not a popularity issue. That's an energy issue. Because you're the type of person that when they spend time with you, they're better, they're not worse. They're higher, they're not lower. They're happier, they're not sadder. And that's an energy issue. Can you bring energy in such a way? Because if you'll do that, you can go anywhere you want in the world. You can go anywhere you want in life. You can have anything you want. So that's it. Those are the two. I hope you enjoyed this. This was my pleasure to do it. Thank you for some great questions. There were about 8 or 10 questions that we couldn't get to. I'll look through them and I'll tailor episode 2 and I'll answer some of those questions. I'm happy to talk about my own life. I'm happy to talk about the choices I've made, the things that have worked, the things that haven't worked, the things I wish I could have done differently. But my passion and my hope for you is that you take something and you skip one of the lessons and you go, cool, I learned that. I'm going to do it this way. You can have anything in life that you want. You're enough. You're perfect the way you are. Don't let anybody get you to think otherwise, and especially not yourself. We'll help you with that on episode 2. All right. It's my pleasure. Have an amazing night. See ya.